Alrighty, what is going on, guys? Aldo here, bringing you an update, technical analysis update on Bitcoin, Ethereum. We're going to talk about the Nasdaq, the Dixie as well, Bitcoin dominance, that type of stuff. So we did come down a bit today. That's the first thing we're going to talk about. Did have some really good trades in Aldo Empire VIP Discord. A link down below if you guys are interested in that. Basically stopped out in profit on the long that I was in, and kind of hunting for something potentially something new around here. And if you look at kind of the short term, we came down a bit. We're getting this formation, kind of a reverse head and shoulders, is generally a more bullish formation. If we were to break up, you got the neckline that you're playing around with right now. If we were to break up, you could come back up to 34.3 easily right here. And money flow kind of coming up in some of these lower time frames. Your 3 minute as well. I believe you got money flow coming up. That looks pretty good. It looks pretty good for the most part. Your 30 minutes more the bear case. VWAP coming down, but money flow coming out as well. But when you look at the hourly here, you got some gapped RSIs potentially short term. I do think you got a good shot of coming up some more in the short term. Also, if we look at the the trigger and anchor waves kind of on the way up, the last two on the 2 hour. I mean, we could be breaking structure here where it doesn't work, but if we do get this one, this could be potentially the jump up to 36K or higher. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but when I look at, my 4 hour here, you got a bear div from all the way back here. I don't think that means too much. It could mean something. That could be the top. But I feel like you need another kind of bear div from this one and then a lower momentum wave to really, give a substantial pullback potentially. And the same thing with the 6 hour. And then when I look at some of these larger time frames here, I'm not seeing bear divs as well. I am seeing money flow kind of look like it may want to come down. So we've definitely lost some structure here. We've definitely lost some momentum. But you do have the money flow crossover into the green on the 2-day. With the VWAP coming down here, this would be kind of indicative of some consolidation, some sideways kind of action here. So there is a possibility though that we're hitting this point. This was a giant jump up, and now we're kind of going to follow more of traditional markets. We're going to follow more of the Nasdaq and potentially kind of come down, whereas we act less kind of as that hedge against inflation. We act less like gold. We act less like commodities and all that with Bitcoin, and follow traditional markets a little bit more. That's one theory. I don't know if that's going to happen, but there's a possibility. Weekly looks kind of good. It looks like you could get more continuation here. 2-week money flow is really, really good. I mean, in terms of this, we're kind of looking at this area right before we went parabolic. I'd be surprised if we, go. It would be way ahead of schedule to go into the, kind of the next bull run. So that's that. But it is pretty wild what we're looking at. I mean, green dot still on the monthly confirms in 5 days. You do have a trend reversal for the first time ever on Market Cipher A here on the monthly. That could be a trend reversal from the downside here, and that could bring us, coming up farther. It also could be a trend reversal from the upside, and it could, start to bring us down rather than up. So that's what we gotta keep in mind here. If we move on to Ethereum a bit here, just like Bitcoin, hitting this area, hitting a volume area low, showing that price wants to kind of stay above this area. This is generally kind of a bullish formation. If you do break upward, your technical target is probably going to be at least at 1806 right here. Money flow coming up on your 6 minute on some of these lower time frames. It does make it seem like things can continue forward a little bit. This trigger wave pretty good, upward. This wave pretty good. This trigger wave pretty good. Most of these gave you what you needed in terms of a kind of long setup here for Ethereum. So that's what we got to keep in mind now. You have money flow coming out, and you don't exactly have a bearish div here. So nothing too bad just yet, like Bitcoin. I mean, it absolutely could be topping out, but I'm not seeing anything too bad just yet. I'm kind of leaning more towards sideways, range bound kind of consolidation, which would work a lot better in those kind of periods for scalp trades, potential day trades. And that's a lot of stuff we do post about in the Discord. I am in a trade on FAIRDESK right now. Gave it a shot, kind of with a scalp along. If you want more details, I mean, it may already be an outcome by time by the time you get in there, by the time this video is kind of posted. But FAIRDESK has been pretty good with some of the trades, especially MEXC as well, especially zero limit fees. If you guys are interested in both of those, link down below, link in the description down below. We give away a $100 trading bonus every week for FAIRDESK. You deposit any amount, do one futures trade, and you got a really good shot of winning it. There's also, if you deposit like a larger amount, you could get a trading bonus, and then you could trade with that and withdraw profits made on that. I believe you could do the same thing with MEXC, and all of the exchanges pretty much could do that. So kind of risk-free a little bit. You do have to double check on it though. Make sure. You do have to pay obviously fees to move the tether in and out of those exchanges. So if you guys are interested, check that out. Link down below. But money flow kind of coming up, on your 2-day here, and then same thing here in the 3-day. So it looks kind of good. In the weekly, you do have a bullish div, which is pretty okay. I guess technically not a bullish div. Obviously, I'm still a bullish formation because this low is bigger than that high right there. So I mean, not the strongest thing, but it's generally a bullish formation. If we look at same deal here on the on regular candles. Sometimes you look at it quick, you misspeak. You're like, oh, bullish div, but then you look closely, you're supposed to be going lower with price. I mean, some people look at it from the wick and they could say, oh, this is a bullish div. That wick is lower than that wick. I like to do it from the bottom, from the actual wick or the actual candle where it's printing. So I technically not a bullish div there. So that may be indicative of a kind of a drop. Once this once this green dot confirms in 3 days, potentially start to drop back down. Now, if we look at just a few things to look at here, 30-year is interesting. We're definitely hitting traffic with it. I can see this coming up a little bit more, but we're hitting major traffic. I kind of, especially if the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 keep coming down, which I think they probably will, I think we could be getting towards the top with this, and I think the Fed will pause for a while and maybe sound less hawkish as months go on, which would probably start to keep this down. 30 U.S. yields down day after weak inflation. Income figures, so those are things that could potentially kind of bring this down. I think you'd have one more jump up. I'm kind of looking at 5.4 as the top here. The TLT, kind of the inverse of this, hitting a major point. I think we're getting close. Money flow coming up in the weekly. The monthly, I'd probably want to wait for this bull div to start printing to be getting in this. Now obviously we could be already back to 90 by the time that happens. That's what I'm kind of looking at there. Anyway, if we look at the DXY as well, look at this briefly, looking pretty good on the 3-day, looking like some continuation. That money flow looks like it wants to come up. Same thing with the 2-day potentially. The daily as well, trigger wave, right here, which looks like continuation. I think we're going to get to our technical target around 109 up to 110. Potentially in the coming couple months, potentially even in November, end of November, potentially up to 110 as the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 kind of continue to fall. If we look at the NASDAQ right now, we're losing this kind of major area, which I think is going to start acting potentially like resistance rather than support. We got to keep an eye on some of these potential bullish divs that could form here on the 2-day, but as long as they don't form, it looks like you're going to probably come back. Your next big point is going to be 13.6K here, which looks like it could be next for the NASDAQ. The question is, will Bitcoin follow this on the way down? I don't know. It's a really good question. I don't know. Bitcoin's jumped up a lot. Maybe it'll act as that kind of hedge against inflation and we keep going up. But I really, it's hard to say. It's kind of hard to say here. My gut instinct says you're going to kind of start to follow the NASDAQ and have a correction at some point here. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. And then we are, like I said before, there are cases to be made that we're kind of starting to top out here. If we look at Bitcoin dominance, still pretty indicative of continuing forward. I like what I'm seeing on the 2-week. I think we need a 2-week bear div that'll probably kind of top this out in the higher 50s. I'm kind of thinking. So yeah, I mean that's that. Our 59% is our kind of technical target here, 59. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer that like once you get close to 60%, it's kind of a good place for altcoins. Obviously not financial advice. Anything could happen with altcoins. This is the inverse, leveraged inverse of the NASDAQ right here. Very bearish sign, kind of the first ever big kind of bearish div on this short ETF ever. You got decay and other crap with these, but I do think you could come back up to like, probably mid to high 30s with this in the coming months, early next year. Once you get back up to kind of this point here, I think that's when your NASDAQ is probably going to be bottoming out potentially, and the Fed's going to start pivoting and all that. money printer goes back on. So that's ultimately what I'm looking at right there. And then the last thing that we could kind of, I'm just curious about like total 2 right here. So you might get that monthly, well, technically it wouldn't be, let's see. Okay, technically it would be a monthly bullish div. Let's see if that does happen. Let's see if that does happen. If that does happen, pretty bullish sign. You got the, technically, yeah, you did have a bull div confirm the weekly. That could have played out. You came up a good amount here with total 2. This is everything, including Bitcoin. You do have at least a little bit more continuation, it looks like, on some of these time frames. So that's what I'm looking at right there. That VWAP coming up, I kind of like on the 2 hour. And Bitcoin in the short term, my kind of scalp long here is doing pretty well. Hopefully he could break above this level, hit a technical target around this area. So yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you like the content, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, check out the Discord down below. There's a free Discord, and then there's premium channels within there. Also, let's see what else. Check out the exchanges. FAIRDESK is the best deal right now. MEXC, great as well. 0 limit fees at my link. So check those out. All right, guys, hope you have a good one. Goodbye.